You are standing in the king's pavilion, and the air is thick with the scent of boiled leather, damp wool, and the nervous sweat of powerful men. Outside, the autumn wind of 1221 whips across the plains of Trialeti, a cold promise of the winter to come. But it is the threat from the south that chills the blood. Before you, King George IV Lasher, the brilliant, ruler of the ascendant Kingdom of Georgia, stares at a map sketched on sheepskin. He is young, his beard still more black than gold, but his eyes carry the weight of a legacy forged by his mother, the great Queen Tamar. His kingdom is a fortress of God, the defender of Christendom in the east, a Black Sea empire in the making. The men gathered around him are the titans of that kingdom. Ivane Makagradzelli, the Atabeg, commander of all armies, a man whose family has served the Bagrationi dynasty for generations. His face is a mask of stern confidence. The other lords, the Asnauri, stand arrayed in their finest silks and mail, their hands resting on the pommels of their swords. They speak of honour, of righteous battle, of the certainty of God's favour. They speak of the 70,000-man army mustered nearby, the finest heavy cavalry in the known world, an iron fist ready to smash this new, unknown foe. These invaders call themselves Mongols. They have appeared as if from nowhere, a storm of dust and arrows that has already laid waste to the Khwarezmian Empire. They are led by two generals, Jebe and Subutai, men whose names are whispered like a curse. But your report, delivered in a low, urgent voice, tells a different story. You are not a lord. You are the king's ear, the master of his spies. Your agents are not soldiers, but Armenian merchants, Nestorian priests, and Syriac traders who have seen these Mongols with their own eyes. They have not just counted their numbers, they have studied their methods. And what you describe is not a battle, it is a hunt. You speak of the feigned retreat. You explain how the Mongols appear to break and flee, drawing their overconfident enemies into a reckless pursuit. You describe how the chase stretches for miles, how the heavy cavalry of their opponents becomes exhausted, its lines disordered, its horses blown. Then, you tell them, on a signal, a black flag, a whistling arrow, the true Mongol army rises from the landscape. Hidden reserves, fresh horsemen, emerge from valleys and behind hills, closing the trap not from the front, but from the flanks and the rear. It is an ambush, on a scale no one here can comprehend. It is not a clash of arms. It is the methodical butchering of an encircled herd. A lord scoffs. Steppe tricks. We are not Persians, to be fooled by such simple ruses. Our knights will shatter their centre before they can spring their little trap. You press on, ignoring him, your eyes fixed on the king. You speak of their horses, smaller than the Georgian war horses but tireless, able to survive on almost nothing. You describe their archers, who can shoot with deadly accuracy from the saddle, firing in coordinated volleys that blot out the Sunday. They do not seek glory in single combat. They seek only to kill, efficiently and without honour. They are a force of nature, not an army of men. King Lasher listens. He runs a hand over his trimmed beard. He looks from your face to the contemptuous faces of his nobles. His entire life, his culture, his very identity is built on the ideal of the warrior king, the champion of Christ who meets his enemies on the field of honour and breaks them. To refuse this battle is to invite accusations of cowardice. It is to spit on the graves of his ancestors. The pressure in the tent is immense, a physical force pushing him toward a glorious, predictable, and utterly fatal decision. For a long moment, he is silent. The lords shift their weight, their armour creaking. They believe the argument is won. They can already taste the victory. Then the king speaks, and his voice is quiet, cold, and devoid of all emotion. We will not fight them. The words fall into the tent like stones into a silent pool. Disbelief turns to outrage. Ivani Mahogzeli steps forward, his face flushed with anger. My king, this is madness. We have them outnumbered. Our lands are threatened. To refuse battle is to lose our honor, our kingdom, everything. We will lose everything if we do fight. Lasha counters, his gaze sweeping over his stunned commanders. He points to the map, not to the battle site, but to the mountains that define his kingdom, the Great Wall of the Caucasus. They want a battle on the plains. It is the only type of battle they can win. We will not give it to them. We will give them nothing. He turns to you. Begin the evacuations. Burn every field, every granary. From here to the Mukvari River. Poison the wells. Drive the livestock into the high valleys. I want the Mongols to find a desert we have made ourselves. This is the ethical tension, the brutal calculus of survival. To save the state, you must sacrifice the people's livelihood. You are not fighting a foreign invader, you are waging war on your own land. The king is asking his subjects to starve in the winter so that the kingdom might live until spring. It is a terrible choice, one that exchanges a quick, honorable death on the battlefield for a slow, miserable life as a refugee in one's own country. The twist is immediate and sharp. The king's command is not met with reluctant obedience, but with open defiance. A powerful duke from Kakheti, his face purple with rage, draws his sword halfway from its scabbard. I will not give the order to burn the lands my grandfather won with his blood. This is cowardice. Your mother would be ashamed. King Lasha does not shout. He does not even move. But his personal guard, the Monaspa, steps forward, their own swords drawn and ready. The king's eyes are like chips of ice. My mother taught me to be a king, not a fool. You will obey, or you will be relieved of your command and your life. We are fighting for the soul of Georgia, not for your pride. The duke hesitates, then slowly shoves his sword back into its sheath, his hatred for the king now, a burning coal in his heart. You leave the tent and begin to issue the orders. The smoke begins to rise within days. You ride through the countryside and see it firsthand. You see your own people, the people you are trying to save, watching as royal soldiers toss torches into their homes, their fields of wheat, their storehouses of wine and cheese. They do not see a grand strategy. They see a king who has abandoned them, a king who destroys their lives to save his own throne. Their faces are blank, with shock and despair. There are no tears, only a hollow emptiness. This is the first cost of survival, the love of your people. The Mongol host arrives a week later. Subutai and Jebi ride at the head of their 20,000 scouts. They crest a hill, expecting to see the rich valleys of Kartli spread before them, ripe for plunder. Instead, they see a landscape of black and grey. The air stinks of smoke. The villages are empty husks. The fields are charred earth. The rivers are fouled with animal carcasses. There is no food, no fodder, no loot. They press on, their scouts fanning out. They find the passes into the mountains blocked, not by a grand army, but by hardened Georgian warriors entrenched in stone fortresses built into the cliffsides. These are not the glorious knights of the plains. These are mountain fighters, patient and deadly. The Mongols probe the defences. They lose men to rock slides, to archers hidden in impossibly high positions, to sudden, vicious sorties that emerge from a hidden gate, strike hard, and vanish back into the stone. They cannot use their feigned retreat. They cannot encircle an enemy that is part of the mountain itself. Subutai, the master strategist, understands immediately. He has been denied his battle. The Georgian king is not a fool. To take this kingdom would require a full-scale invasion, a long and brutal siege war in hostile terrain, with no resources to sustain his army. And for what? This was a reconnaissance in force, a mission to map the lands of the West, not to get bogged down in a costly war of attrition in the Caucasus. After 2 weeks of fruitless probing and losing men for no gain, Subutai gives the order. They turn north, skirting the eastern edge of the great mountain range, heading for the lands of the Rus. They have been checked, not by force of arms in the field, but by a force of will. You stand with King Lasha on the battlements of a fortress overlooking the plains. You watch the last of the Mongol horsemen disappear as a smudge of dust on the horizon. The Georgian lords around you are silent. Their relief is mixed with a sour taste of shame. There was no glory here. No epic songs will be sung of this victory. The king has saved his army. He has saved his state. But as you look out over the blackened, smoking ruins of his own kingdom, you understand the profound truth of this moment. He has preserved the body of Georgia, but a wound has been carved into its soul. The internal fractures, the distrust between the king and his proud nobles, the silent resentment of the peasantry are now a permanent part of the foundation upon which this new, pragmatic, and ruthless Georgia will be built. The mountain's shadow has fallen not just on the land, but on the heart of the king himself. The air in Trebizond tastes of salt and decay. It is the 1240s, and you are an old man now, your bones aching with the memory of Caucasian winters. 2 decades have passed since you stood in a king's pavilion and spoke of ruin. The young king, Lasha, is dead, struck down by illness, but his sister, Queen Rusudan, has inherited his iron will and his cold, pragmatic mind. The policy of the fortified mountain, the strategy of survival, has become the bedrock of the Georgian state. While the Mongol storm broke over the principalities of the Rus, turning cities to ash, Georgia endured. It healed. It grew strong in its isolation. And now, that strength is being projected. You are standing in the Hagia Sophia of Trebizond, a smaller, seaside cousin to the great cathedral of Constantinople. The light filters through the high windows, illuminating frescoes of stern-faced saints and gold-leafed mosaics that glitter like a trapped constellation. The scent of beeswax and ancient incense hangs heavy in the air. This is the heart of the Empire of Trebizond, the last shard of Byzantium on the Black Sea, ruled by the Komnenos dynasty, who still style themselves emperors of the Romans. But they are emperors of a memory, and today that memory dies. Before the altar stands Manuel I Komnenos, the Grand Komnenos, a man whose flowing silk robes and delicate features speak of a civilization obsessed with ceremony and heritage. Beside him, in stark contrast, stands the Georgian Spaspeti, the commander of the Queen's armies. He wears polished chainmail under a heavy wool cloak. He does not look at the mosaics. He watches the exits. This is not a conquest. There was no siege, no battle. It is something far more humiliating, an act of submission disguised as an alliance. It is called the Pledge of Eternal Brotherhood. In reality, the Emperor of Trebizond is ceding his sovereignty. His armies will now answer to the Georgian crown. His treasury will pay tribute, elegantly rebranded as a contribution to our shared defense. His foreign policy will be dictated from Tbilisi. The flag of the Komnenoi will still fly over the city walls, but the hand that holds the flagpole will be Georgian. You watch the ceremony from the shadows of a marble column. You see the faces of the Trapezuntine nobles, Their expressions a carefully constructed blend of piety and profound resentment. They see your people, the Georgians, as uncultured mountain warriors, crude upstarts who have no appreciation for the thousand-year legacy of Rome. They whisper in classical Greek, their words like poisoned darts, mocking the Georgian accents, the practical armor, the lack of courtly grace. They believe they are being swallowed by barbarians to save them from other barbarians. This is the logical and brutal outcome of King Lasha's decision. With its army and state intact, Georgia became the sole anchor of stability in a world capsized by the Mongol invasions. The Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, to the south, is a Mongol vassal, bled dry and broken. The other Byzantine successor states, Nicaea and Epirus, are too far away and consumed with their own rivalries. Trebizond, a wealthy port city clinging to the coast, was isolated and vulnerable. Queen Rusudan offered them a choice: protection under the Georgian wing or the certainty of eventual destruction by the next wave of invaders, be they Mongol or Turk. It was the choice between subjugation and annihilation. The ethical tension is palpable in the cold air of the church. Georgia is saving a Christian state. It is creating a buffer, a unified front against the chaos of the East. In Tbilisi, this is seen as a righteous and necessary act, the fulfillment of Georgia's destiny as the shield of Christendom. But here, in Trebizond, it is seen as an occupation. You are preserving the body of this city while strangling its soul. You are protecting their lives by erasing their identity. It is the cold logic of a hegemon. The small must serve the great, for the great to protect the small. Freedom is a luxury that can no longer be afforded. The ceremony concludes. Manuel Komnenos, his face pale, touches his lips to a Georgian cross. The pledge is sealed. As the court files out, a young Greek scribe, his hands stained with ink, approaches you. He recognizes the insignia of your office on your robes. "You are one of the Queen's advisors," he says, his voice a low, trembling whisper. He does not try to hide his contempt. "You must be proud. You have done what the Turks could not. You have ended the Roman Empire. We have preserved it," you reply, your own voice weary. "Without us, this city would be a ruin within a decade." "It is already a ruin," the scribe retorts, his eyes flashing with a desperate fire. "It is a museum, a province. My emperor is now a governor. You speak of preservation, but you do not understand what you are preserving. Trebizond is not just stone and gold. It is an idea. The idea of an unbroken line back to Augustus. The idea of civilization. You have replaced that idea with a fortress wall. You have saved us from the Mongols by turning us into Georgians. This is the unexpected twist. The very act of creating a Christian power bloc has irrevocably fractured the identity of Eastern Christendom. The dream is no longer the restoration of Byzantium. That dream has been snuffed out, not by a Muslim sultan or a Mongol Khan, but by a fellow Orthodox queen. A new power has risen. The Pontic Citadel, a hybrid entity forged in the fires of necessity. It is Georgian in its martial leadership, its language of command, its rugged pragmatism. It is Greek in its bureaucracy, its maritime trade, its culture of letters. But it is a body with two heads, a union born of fear, not love. You walk later that day on the famous walls of Trebizond. The Georgian banners, with their deep red crosses, now fly beside the single-headed eagle of the Komnenos. Your soldiers man the ramparts, their spears and distinctive tower shields a jarring sight against the backdrop of the shimmering Black Sea. From here, you can see the Genoese and Venetian ships in the harbour, their merchants already learning to negotiate with Georgian officials rather than Greek ones. You look eastward, toward the misty peaks of the Pontic Alps that stretch all the way back to your home. You remember the smoke rising from your own fields 20 years ago. You remember the price paid for survival, and you now understand its ultimate cost. In order to save your part of the world, you had to remake it in your own image. Georgia did not just survive the Mongols. It became an empire built on the ashes of another's dream. The Pontic Citadel is born, a fortress facing the world, but its deepest cracks are on the inside. The year is 1252. The world is on fire. You are in the fortress city of Tbilisi, but the news that reaches you is carried on winds of ash. Batu Khan, grandson of the great Genghis Khan, has returned. This is not the probing raid of his generals 30 years ago. This is the Great Western Invasion, an ocean of horsemen flooding the world, an act of God's wrath given form. You remember the first encounter, the scorched earth, the cold pragmatism of your king. That pragmatism now resides in his daughter, Queen Rusudan, a woman who rules with a spine of tempered steel. For 3 decades, she has overseen the transformation of the kingdom. The mountain passes are no longer just guarded. They are engineered. A web of interlocking fortresses, connected by signal towers, turns the entire Caucasus into a single, comprehensive, defensive system. Every village has a fortified keep. Every monastery, a high wall. Georgia has not just prepared for war. It has become war, embodied in stone and iron. The reports are terrifying. The Bulgars of the Volga, shattered. The Kipchak Khans, exterminated. The cities of the Ruses Ryazan, Kolomna, Vladimir, Suzdal are not just conquered. They are erased from the earth. The city of Kiev, the mother of Rus, a great center of Orthodox faith, has been reduced to a smoking field of skulls. Batu Khan's army is a machine of annihilation, and it is now moving south. Its shadow falls upon your borders. But this time, the Mongols do not charge into the mountain passes. Batu Khan is not Jebei. He is a conqueror, not a scout. He understands logistics, attrition, and the value of a victory won before the first arrow is fired. He does not send an army, he sends a single man. You are part of the delegation that meets the envoy in a pavilion set up in the neutral ground of the Kura Valley. The Mongol sits on a low stool, perfectly still. He is not a warrior. His robes are of silk, not leather. He is a bureaucrat of the coming empire. He smells of horse sweat, sour milk, and the immense, chilling confidence of an invincible power. He does not speak your language. An interpreter, a terrified Persian with haunted eyes, translates his master's words, which fall like chips of ice into the silence. The message is the same one delivered to every king and prince from China to the Danube. The great Khan, the shadow of the eternal blue sky on earth, offers you a choice. Submit, and you will have our protection. Your queen may keep her throne as our vassal. You will pay the tax, provide your sons for our armies, and accept our Darugachi, our governor. Resist, and we will do to Tbilisi what we have done to Kiev. The choice is yours. You have until the next full moon. The Georgian lords with you bristle. Their hands go to their swords. To them, this is an insult, to be answered in blood. 30 years of preparation have made them proud, perhaps too proud. They speak of the strength of their fortresses, the courage of their soldiers. But you and the Queen's chief chancellor see the trap. This is not an offer. It is a calculation. Batu Khan knows a war in the Caucasus would be long and bloody. He is weighing the cost in Mongol lives against the value of the prize. Your task is not to defy him, but to change his calculation. When it is your turn to speak, you do not offer defiance. You offer a different kind of tribute. You speak of trade routes, of the flow of goods from Trebizond and the Black Sea ports into Persia. You speak of intelligence, of the knowledge your merchants possess of the lands to the south, the weakening Seljuk Sultanate, the rivalries of the Ayyubid princes. You speak of the mountains not as a barrier to his armies, but as a secure flank for his new empire. The great Khan is the master of the plains, you say, the interpreter relaying your words with careful precision. We are the masters of the mountains. A war between us would cost you 50,000 men and 3 years of campaign. Your finest warriors would die, breaking themselves against our walls. And when you finally conquered us, what would you have won? A kingdom of rock and snow, its people slaughtered, its cities in ruins. It is a poor prize for such a high price. You pause, letting the words sink in. The Mongol envoy's face is unreadable. We offer you a different path. Not submission, but an understanding. A treaty. We will not be your vassals, but we will not be your enemies. We will be your wall against the powers of the south. This frontier will be silent. You will never need to station a single soldier here. All your strength, all your armies, can be focused northward, on the rich lands of the Rus, on Poland, on Hungary. We offer you a secure southern border. All we ask in return is to be left alone. This is the ethical dilemma laid bare. You are offering to trade the fate of the world for the safety of your own kingdom. You are telling Batu Khan, go, destroy the rest of Christendom. We will hold your coat. It is the ultimate act of pragmatic self-interest, a betrayal of the very title Georgia claims for itself, the shield of Christendom. You are saving the shield by letting the heart be pierced. The Mongol envoy listens. He asks a few sharp questions about troop numbers, fortress depths, and harvest yields. Your answers are honest and direct. You are not trying to trick him. You are presenting him with a business proposition written in the language of blood and steel. He leaves as silently as he arrived. For 2 weeks, the kingdom holds its breath. The Mongol horde waits. A vast, silent presence on the northern plains. The signal fires on the mountain peaks are kept ready. Every man sleeps with his sword by his side. Then the envoy returns. He brings a scroll, stamped with the seal of Batu Khan. It is not a demand for submission, it is a treaty of mutual non-aggression and defined borders. Georgia will pay no tribute, send no soldiers. It will, however, grant Mongol caravans free and untaxed passage to the port of Trebizond, and it contains one secret clause, one drop of poison in the cup of victory. Georgia pledges to take no action, offer no aid, and form no alliance with the Seljuk Sultanate or any other power in Anatolia or Persia. You have formally agreed to watch them burn. The twist is not that the treaty is honoured, but the chilling efficiency it creates. Batu Khan, his entire southern flank now guaranteed by your neutrality, is free to unleash the full, undivided might of his army upon Europe. The forces that would have been committed to a multi-year Caucasian siege, perhaps 3 tumens, 30,000 elite horsemen are instead sent west. The invasion of Poland is not just a victory, it is an apocalypse. The Battle of Legnica sees the Polish and German knights utterly annihilated. The invasion of Hungary is even more devastating. Without the need to guard his rear, Batu pushes all the way to the Adriatic coast. The wave of destruction rolls farther and faster than it ever could have otherwise. You stand on the northernmost watchtower of the Darial Gorge. The treaty is signed. The relief is so profound, it feels like a physical illness. You watch the endless columns of the Mongol army, not retreating, but marching west. They are no longer your problem. You have won. Your kingdom is safe. Your people will live. But as you listen to the wind whistling through the pass, you can almost hear the death cries of cities whose names you do not even know. You have bought your survival with their extinction. The Golden Horde that rides into Europe is stronger, its supply lines more secure, its purpose more singular because of the treaty you signed. You did not just step out of the fire, you redirected the inferno onto everyone else. Georgia stands alone, intact, and utterly complicit. The late 13th century is a world of contracts, not crowns. You are standing in the great Darbazi Hall of the Royal Palace in Tbilisi, a chamber whose carved wooden ceiling is meant to evoke the dome of heaven itself. King Demetrius II is on the throne, a man who, in another world, would have been a doomed vassal of the Mongol Ilkhans, forced to sacrifice his life for a kingdom that was not his own. In this world, he is the master of a sovereign realm, a king whose power is not measured by the size of his armies alone, but by the weight of the gold that flows through his city. Before him is a delegation of men who embody this new age. They are not ambassadors from another king. They are from the Republic of Genoa, and they carry themselves with the assurance of men who understand that true power no longer resides in land, but in the control of capital. Their leader, a man named Luca Grimaldi, is not a warrior. His hands are soft, his robes are of the finest Florentine wool, and his eyes have the unnerving stillness of a predator that has never missed a meal. He speaks through an interpreter, but his gaze is fixed on the king, a look of mutual, calculating respect. These Genoese are not here to ask for a trading post or a small concession, as their Venetian rivals do in other ports. They have seen the reality of the New World Order. The northern Silk Road routes, running through the territories of the Golden Horde, are subject to the whims of the Khans, to sudden taxes, to political instability. The southern routes are contested by the faltering Ilkhanate and the Mamluk Sultanate, but the central route, the one that comes through Persia and debouches at the Georgian-controlled port of Trebizond, is the most stable and profitable artery of trade on the planet. And the key to that artery is the military security of the Caucasus. Grimaldi's proposal is audacious, revolutionary, and, to the old guard of Georgian nobles standing by the throne, deeply insulting. He unrolls a series of intricate schematics drawn by the finest engineers in Italy. They are designs for a new generation of fortresses. Your Majesty, Grimaldi begins, his voice smooth and confident. Your kingdom's security is the foundation of our mutual prosperity. The fortresses built by your ancestors are strong, but the world is changing. The Ilkhans to the south experiment with siege weapons from China. The Horde to the north is unpredictable. To maintain this peace, this stability that benefits us all, you require walls that are not merely strong but scientifically perfect. He points to the drawings. He speaks of angled bastions to create deadly crossfires, of rounded towers to better deflect projectiles, of advanced machicolations and thickened curtain walls. He is offering to build a dozen such fortresses at key strategic points, from the Darial Gorge in the north to the borders of Ani in the south. He is offering to turn Georgia from a fortress into an impregnable citadel. An old duke, his face a web of battle scars, scoffs loudly. And what is the price for these Italian walls? Half the royal treasury? Nothing so crude, Grimaldi replies without looking at him. His eyes are still on the king. Gold is a tool, not a goal. The Republic of Genoa, through its financial instrument, the Office of St. George, will bear the entire cost of construction. We will provide the engineers, the capital, and even the advanced tools required. The hall falls silent. A gift of this magnitude is unheard of. It can only be a trap. The king leans forward, his expression unreadable. And in return, Grimaldi says, we ask for a share. Not in your kingdom, Your Majesty, but in the enterprise that your kingdom protects. We propose the formation of a new entity, the Societas Caucasiensis, the Caucasian Company. This company will be granted a charter, a monopoly on the tolls and tariffs collected along the trade routes from the Caspian Gate to the Black Sea coast. The Georgian crown will hold 60% of the shares in this company, a permanent and controlling interest. The office of St. George will hold 40% in perpetuity. We do not want your gold. We want to become your partners. We are not paying for your fortresses. We are investing in our joint security. This is statecraft as a corporate merger. It is a new language of power. The older lords are apoplectic. To them, the defense of the realm is a sacred duty, paid for in blood and feudal obligation. The idea of entrusting it to foreign merchants, of turning fortress walls into a business asset on a ledger in Genoa, is sacrilege. It is the ethical tension of this new era. Are you protecting your kingdom by making it stronger? Or are you selling its very soul, piece by piece, to the highest bidder? You are mortgaging your sovereignty for security, inviting the fox to guard the henhouse, because he promises to build a stronger fence. King Demetrius is silent for a long time. He sees the danger, but he also sees the brilliance. His kingdom is secure, but maintaining that security is a constant drain on his resources. This proposal offers a way to modernize his defenses and increase his revenue stream without levying a single extra tax on his people. Then comes the unexpected twist, a move of pure Georgian pragmatism that Grimaldi did not anticipate. The proposal is acceptable, the king declares, with one condition. The board of directors for this Societas Caucasiensis will have equal representation. For every Genoese director, there will be a Georgian one, appointed by the crown, and my own son, the heir, will serve as its first chairman. Furthermore, for every Genoese engineer you bring here, you will take a young man from our noble families to Genoa, to be educated at your expense in the arts of banking, law, and administration. If we are to be partners, we will be equal partners. You will teach us how to be merchants, and we will continue to teach you how to be safe. Grimaldi is momentarily stunned. He had envisioned a relationship of silent, junior partner. The king has just demanded a seat at the head of the table. But the logic is inescapable, and the prize is too great to refuse. He bows his head. An elegant and wise solution, Your Majesty. We agree. The bargain is struck. Within a decade, the landscape of Georgia begins to change. You travel to a construction site in the high mountains. The scale of it is breathtaking. It is not a Georgian fortress. It is a machine of stone and geometry, built with a ruthless efficiency that is utterly foreign. A Genoese quartermaster, a man who worships numbers, directs an army of paid labourers. There is no feudal levy, only wages. The stone blocks are lifted by strange new cranes, their designs brought from the shipyards of Liguria. Working beside the Genoese manager is a young Georgian noble, the son of the duke who had scoffed in the throne room. He has just returned from 2 years in Genoa. He wears Italian-style boots. His Georgian is peppered with Ligurian phrases, and he carries an abacus, which he uses with terrifying speed. He is arguing with the Genoese about supply chains and cost overruns. He is no longer just a warrior. He is a manager, an executive. You look at the rising walls of the fortress, a monument to this strange new alliance. The kingdom is richer and safer than ever before, but its fate is now tied by 1,000 threads of contract law and financial obligation to a city of bankers 1,000 miles away. The Genoese bargain has secured the kingdom's borders, but it has erased the old lines that defined what it meant to be a Georgian warrior, a noble, a king. Power is no longer simple. It is a complex equation on a balance sheet, and you can only pray that the numbers always add up in your favour. The year is 1325. You are a ghost, living in two worlds at once. Your name is Alexios Komnenos, and that name is a curse, a promise, and a chain. In your veins flows the imperial blood of Byzantium, a lineage that traces itself back to the Caesars. But you have never seen the great city. Your world is not the marble of the polis, but the cold, hard stone of the Caucasus. You are standing in the scriptorium of the Gelati Monastery, a beacon of learning nestled in the hills of western Georgia. The air smells of ink, aging parchment, and the sweet, cloying scent of melting beeswax from 1,000 candles. Before you is a manuscript of Thucydides, the ink still sharp. The Greek letters a perfect, flowing river of logic and tragedy. Your tutor, a frail scholar from Trebizond named Michael, points a bony finger at the text. "See, my prince," he whispers, his voice dry as dust. "See how Pericles speaks of the glory of Athens. Not its walls, not its treasury, but its idea. A city that is an education to all of Greece. That is our heritage. That is the soul of the Roman people. It is a thing of the mind. Alexios, not the sword." You nod, but your mind is elsewhere. Your gaze drifts past the manuscript, through the arched window, to the training grounds below. There, boys your own age, the sons of Georgian dukes and Asnari, are practicing. They are not reading philosophy. They are learning the brutal geometry of the battlefield, under the unforgiving eye of a retired Monospa captain named Becker. He is a mountain of a man, his face a roadmap of old scars. He teaches that the sword is the only idea that matters, because it is the only idea that can protect all the others. This is your life. In the mornings you are a Roman, a Komnenos, steeped in rhetoric, theology, and the glorious, tragic history of your ancestors. You learn that you are the heir to a fallen empire, a prince of a great idea. In the afternoons, you are a Georgian. You learn to ride a horse until your thighs are raw, to wield the heavy Kanjali dagger, to read a landscape for ambush points, and to speak the Georgian language not with the soft lilt of a courtier, but with the hard, clipped commands of a soldier. Baker has taught you that sentiment is a weakness, history is a burden, and survival is the only virtue. You are the living embodiment of the Pontic Citadel, the hybrid state born from Georgian strength and Trapezuntine fear 80 years ago. Your father, the Grand Komnenos, rules in Trebizond as a glorified governor, his every decree approved by the Georgian viceroy. As a child, you were sent to the Georgian court as a hostage, a guarantee of your father's loyalty. But the hostage has become a native. You feel more at home in the rugged halls of Tbilisi than you do in the perfumed, decaying palaces of the city of your birth. The ethical tension is the war within your own soul. Who are you? Are you the last flickering ember of Byzantium, with a sacred duty to reclaim its lost glory? Or are you a prince of this new, vital, pragmatic Georgian empire, a power that sees your heritage as a useful tool, a quaint decoration, but ultimately an irrelevance? Michael, your tutor, begs you to remember your blood. Becker, your trainer, tells you that blood is just something you learn how to spill. Every day, you are forced to choose, and every day, you choose both, and therefore, neither. One day, the choice is forced upon you. A messenger arrives, his horse lathered in sweat. He carries the seal of King George V, the brilliant, the man who has spent his reign consolidating the power you now serve. You are summoned to Tbilisi, not to the court, but to the king's private war council. You ride for 2 days, your mind racing. You enter the chamber and find the king standing before a map of the Black Sea coast. He is a young man, but his eyes are ancient. He does not waste time with pleasantries. Alexios, he says, his voice calm and direct. There is trouble in your city. A faction of nobles, led by the Scholarios family, are plotting against your father. They speak of restoring the honor of the Komnenoi. They say he is a Georgian puppet. They have been in secret contact with emissaries from the Palaiologos emperor in Constantinople, dreaming of a grand Roman restoration. He looks at you, his gaze sharp, analytical. They believe you are their champion. They have been sending you secret letters for months, which my agents have dutifully intercepted. They see you as the pure Komnenos, the one raised away from the compromising influence of your father's court. They believe you will return as their liberator. The king's words hang in the air. This is not a question. It is a test. He is handing you a knife and waiting to see which way you point it. You look at the map. You see Trebizond, a tiny, vulnerable port. You see the vast, secure kingdom of Georgia behind it. You see the pathetic, shrinking territory of the Palaiologan emperor, a man who rules a city of ghosts and calls himself the master of the world. You think of Michael's words about the idea of Rome. And then you think of Becker's lessons about the reality of power. The idea of Rome is beautiful. But the Georgian army is real. What would you have me do? You ask, your voice steady. I would have you do what is necessary. The king replies, This is your house to put in order. I am giving you command of a legion of my personal guard. Go to Trebizond, secure the city, deal with this conspiracy, show them who you are. This is the unexpected twist. The king is not sending a Georgian general to crush a Greek rebellion. He is sending the Greek prince, armed with a Georgian army, to crush the Greek dream himself. It is a move of political genius, as subtle as it is cruel. Whatever you do, the message will be clear. You arrive in Trebizond a month later. The city welcomes you as a returning hero. The Scholarios plotters greet you in secret. Their eyes alight with fanaticism. They lay their plans before you, speaking in hushed, reverent tones of the coming restoration, of the day the Georgian banners will be torn down. They see the Georgian soldiers at your back, and assume they are your loyal followers, ready to turn on their masters for their new Roman emperor. You listen patiently. You let them reveal every name, every detail of their plot. You drink their wine and toast to the glory of the empire. And then, at dawn, you act. But you do not act like a Byzantine. You do not engage in a counterplot, in whispers and poison, and carefully arranged accidents. You act like a Georgian. You act like Becker taught you. You use overwhelming decisive force. Your soldiers, the elite of the Georgian army, move with chilling efficiency. They storm the houses of the conspirators, not as police, but as a conquering army. There are no arrests. There are only swift, brutal executions. The heads of the Scholarios family are on spikes in the hippodrome by noon. There is no trial, no intrigue. There is only the public, terrifying display of absolute power. You stand on the balcony of the imperial palace, looking down at the stunned, silent city. Your father stands beside you, his face pale with a mixture of fear and relief. The people look up at you, and they do not see the romantic hero they imagined. They see a stranger. They see a conqueror who wears their face. You have secured your inheritance. You have ensured the stability of the Pontic Citadel. But to do it, you had to kill the very idea you were born to represent. You had to become a Georgian to rule the Greeks. You look at your hands, and you realize they are the hands of a king, not a philosopher. You are Alexios Komnenos, the grand Komnenos of Trebizond, and in that moment you understand with perfect, soul-crushing clarity that you are the last Komnenos there will ever be. The name will continue, but the ghost of Rome has finally been exercised. The end of the 14th century smells of fear. The fear has a name. Timur. You have heard that name for years. A distant rumble of a coming earthquake. It was a story whispered by merchants from Samarkand, a horror tale told by refugees from Isfahan. They spoke of pyramids, built from the skulls of the dead, of entire cities sown with salt, of a conqueror who was not merely a warrior but a walking apocalypse. He called himself the Sword of Islam, but you know he is the Scourge of God, a force that seeks not to rule but to break the world. And now, he is here. His shadow falls over the Caucasus. You are Varden, commander of the Darial Gorge, the great northern gate of your kingdom. You are standing on the highest tower of the fortress of the Heavenly Pass, a monster of stone and geometry that did not exist a century ago. Its angled bastions and interlocking fields of fire are the product of Genoese engineering, paid for with the profits of the silk trade. Its garrison is not a feudal levy of part-time farmers, but a standing army of professional soldiers, their steel crossbows and plate-reinforced armour, the best that Georgian wealth can buy. You are a descendant of the men who faced Jebe and Subutai. But you are not the same kind of warrior. You are an engineer of death, a manager of a complex defensive system. The kingdom that Timur has come to destroy is not the one his Mongol ancestors bypassed. It is not the fragmented, bickering realm that existed in another lifetime. King George VII, a man as pragmatic as he is pious, has spent his reign preparing for this exact moment. Georgia has become the undisputed hegemon of the Caucasus, its influence extending from the Black Sea to the Caspian. And now, that influence is being leveraged for survival. Your first mission, months ago, was not to sharpen your sword, but to deliver an ultimatum. You rode north into the lands of the Circassians, the Alans, and the Vanak peoples of the high mountains. You met their chieftains and elders not in a grand hall but in windswept clearings and smoky huts. Your king's message was simple and brutal. Timur is coming for us all, you told them. He will not distinguish between your clans and our kingdom. You will fight with us, under a unified command, or you will face him alone, and if by some miracle you survive his wrath after refusing our call, you will then face ours. This was the cold, ethical calculus of a regional power. It was an alliance forged at sword point. You were not offering them a choice. You were demanding their submission for the sake of their own survival. Some, the Alans, who had long and friendly ties, agreed with a grim nod. Others, proud Circassian princes, bristled with fury. They called you an arrogant tyrant, a worthy successor to the Mongol Khans. They were not wrong. To fight the monster, you had to become a monster yourself, imposing your will on your neighbours, sacrificing their freedom for the sake of a collective, Georgian-led security. In the end, they all agreed. They had no other choice. So the plan was set. A true pan-Caucasian defence. The northern tribes would not meet Timur's horde head-on. Their task was to be the Hornets, to wage a relentless guerrilla war on his foraging parties and supply lines, to be a constant, draining nuisance. The heart of the kingdom, its cities and people, would retreat behind the great fortress belt, while you and the main army would bleed Timur's forces white against your walls. Timur's invasion begins as a flood. His army is a nation on the move, an estimated 100,000 men, including the finest siege engineers from Persia and India. He sweeps through the northern foothills, burning the villages the Circassians have already abandoned, and arrives at the mouth of your pass. He expects the gate to the kingdom. He finds a wall, a system of walls. The siege begins. It is a spectacle of hellish industry. Thousands of labourers, protected by massive wooden shields, begin to construct siege lines. Trebuchets, colossal wooden arms capable of hurling boulders the size of a horse, are assembled. But this is not the static warfare of old. Your fortress is not a passive shield. It is an active weapon. From hidden sally ports, your cavalry, smaller and more agile than Timur's heavy horse, strike at night, setting fire to siege engines and disappearing back into the darkness before a proper response can be mustered. From the highest towers, Genoese-trained engineers command your own counterweight trebuchets, dueling with Timur's artillery across the valley. And on the walls, you have a weapon Timur has rarely encountered. Bombards, crude iron cannons, cast in the foundries of Trebizond, that firestone balls with a terrifying roar of smoke and thunder. They are inaccurate, slow to load, but the psychological impact is immense. And when they do hit, they splinter siege towers and shatter morale. For 3 months, the siege grinds on. Timur's brilliance is undeniable. He tries every tactic, he feigns retreats, he sends sappers to mine your walls. He attempts a massive frontal assault under the cover of a volley of thousands of arrows. Each time, the design of your fortress and the discipline of your professional soldiers repel him. The angled bastions create inescapable killing zones. The thickened walls resist his bombardment. Your soldiers, well supplied from a network of underground granaries, are not starving. His army, however, is. The hornets of the northern tribes are doing their work. His supply convoys are ambushed. His foragers return empty-handed, or not at all. Disease begins to creep through his camp. The cost is horrific. You lose thousands of your own men. The valley below is a charnel house. But for every one of your soldiers lost, Timur loses 5. He eventually takes the outer Barbican, but he has not even reached your main wall, and he knows that yours is only the first of a dozen such fortresses guarding the way to Tbilisi. This is the unexpected twist. Timur, the great and terrible conqueror, is a student of war above all else. His rage at being thwarted is slowly, chillingly, replaced by a professional curiosity. This is not the panicked resistance of a doomed people. This is the calculated, systematic defiance of a genuine military power. He sees in your defense a mind that thinks as his does in terms of logistics, geometry, and the breaking points of men. One of your subordinate commanders is captured during a failed sortie. You expect him to be flayed alive, his head placed on a spike. Instead, he is brought before Timur himself. The conqueror does not torture him. He questions him for hours, through an interpreter, about the fortress designs, the chain of command, the logic of the defense. He is not gathering intelligence to defeat you. He is studying you. Finally, Timur makes his decision. He is not a fool. To continue this campaign would mean sacrificing 1/3 of his army and a year of his time to conquer a mountainous kingdom of little strategic value to his grander ambitions, the subjugation of the Ottoman Sultan and the final destruction of the Golden Horde. He sends an envoy. The terms he offers are shocking. He does not demand submission. He does not demand tribute. He demands a treaty of non-alliance. Georgia must pledge to never aid Toktamish Khan of the Golden Horde, Timur's great rival. In exchange, Timur will withdraw and recognize the borders of the Georgian Kingdom. It is a peace born of grudging mutual respect between 2 masters of war. A peace your king accepts immediately. You stand on the battle-scarred parapet of your fortress and watch as the endless columns of Timur's army turn around and march away. A cheer goes up from your exhausted, bloodied soldiers. You have won an impossible victory. The East is unscathed. Your cities are safe. Your people are alive. But as the last of Timur's banners disappear into the dust, you feel not triumph, but a profound and chilling sobriety. You look south, at the peaceful, intact kingdom behind you, and you realize what has been forged here. In the fire and blood of this siege, you have created a legend, the unbreakable Caucasus. And you know that legends are heavy things, burdens that must be carried, and that the world will never again look at your mountain kingdom as a quaint Christian outpost. It will look at you as a power to be reckoned with, a force to be feared. You did not just survive Timur, you became like him. The year is 1433. And Tbilisi is the jewel of the world. In another life, this city would be a ghost, a provincial town of ruins and bitter memories, its great families decimated by Timur's invasions. In this life, it is a symphony of construction and commerce. The air does not carry the stench of fear, but the sharp tang of smelted iron, the exotic scent of spices from the east, and the dry, papery aroma of new books. You are Andrea, a young man from a minor noble house in the Western Mountains, but you are not here to learn the art of war. The age of the soldier aristocrat is passing. You are here to learn the art of knowledge, for in this new Georgia, knowledge is the sharpest weapon of all. You are a student at the Royal Academy of King Alexander I, a sprawling campus of stone and timber funded not just by the crown, but by a 10% tithe on the profits of the Societas Caucasiensis. The Genoese partners called it an investment in human capital. Your king calls it forging the minds that will defend the realm. You are standing in the grand workshop of the Faculty of Natural Philosophy. It is less a classroom and more a controlled inferno. The heat from a dozen forges shimmers in the air. The rhythmic clang of hammers on steel provides a constant percussion. Here, you are not studying Aristotle's theories on metals. You are making them. Your master is a man named Georgi, a figure who embodies this Caucasian Renaissance. He is built like the blacksmiths of your home village, with arms like oak branches. But his hands, though calloused, move with the delicacy of a surgeon, and his eyes hold the fierce, analytical light of a true scholar. He wears the rough leather apron of a smith, but tucked into his belt is a copy of Avicenna's Canon of Medicine, translated into Georgian from a Persian copy acquired in Tabriz. Today, he is demonstrating a new technique for steel production. He speaks of the carbon content of the iron, using terminology he has borrowed from Genoese engineers. He directs the bellows with a precise rhythm, citing a passage from a Greek alchemical text salvaged from Trebizond that describes the breathing of fire. He quenches the finished blade, not in plain water, but in a carefully prepared mixture of oils and salts, a recipe he claims was perfected by the master smiths of Damascus before their city was sacked by Timur. The result is a sword of breathtaking quality, its surface rippling with the watery pattern of true crucible steel, an edge that can slice a silk scarf dropped upon it. "Do you see, Andrea?" he says, his voice a low rumble above the din. "The Greeks gave us the question, why? The Persians gave us the observation, how? The Genoese gave us the measurement, how much? But we Georgians, we provide the answer. For what purpose? The purpose is this." He holds up the sword. Strength. The strength to remain ourselves. All this knowledge, all this work, it all ends here, in the hand of a Georgian soldier, on the wall of a Georgian fortress. This is the central, driving ethos of your world. This is not the humanism of Florence, which seeks to understand the nature of man. This is the statism of Tbilisi, which seeks to perfect the tools of national survival. Every discovery is judged by a single, ruthless metric. Does it make the kingdom stronger? Art, poetry, music. They all flourish here, but they are the beautiful flowers growing in a garden with very high, very sharp walls. The garden itself, the thing that truly matters, is the project of the state. This is the ethical tension of your golden age. The pursuit of knowledge is not a liberating act of free inquiry. It is a nationalized industry. The academy is a state asset, and you and your fellow students are its most precious raw material, being forged into instruments of power as surely as the steel in Master Georgie's workshop. There is no room for knowledge for its own sake, for the beautiful, useless idea. Everything must serve the whole. One evening, Georgie summons you to his private laboratory, a place few are ever permitted to see. The room is a stark contrast to the fiery chaos of the workshop. It is a place of quiet, clinical order. On the tables are not hammers and tongs, but brass astrolabes from Persia, delicate glass beakers from Venice, and scalpels of a design you have never seen before. "You are my best student, Andrea," Georgie says, his voice softer now. "You have a quick mind, but more importantly, you are not afraid to see the world as it is, rather than how the priests tell us it should be. I want to show you the other side of my work." He leads you to a table covered by a heavy cloth. The air here is colder and carries a strange, metallic, coppery smell. With a deep breath, he pulls back the sheet. Lying on the marble slab is a human body. It is the corpse of a man, his skin pale and waxy in the lamplight. It is a postic, a condemned criminal, executed that morning for banditry. The man's chest cavity has been expertly opened, his ribs sawn and spread, his organs laid bare in a silent, gruesome display. You feel a wave of nausea and revulsion. This is a profound violation, a desecration of a body made in God's image. The Orthodox Church teaches that the sanctity of the body is absolute. To do this is a mortal sin. This, Georgie says, his voice a low, intense whisper, is the true text. The Greeks wrote about the four humours. Avicenna drew beautiful but incorrect diagrams of the human heart. They were guessing. They were afraid to look. He picks up a scalpel and points to the heart. They believed the soul resided here. They were wrong. It is a pump, a brilliant, powerful, intricate pump. Look. He traces the path of the aorta, explaining its function with a detached, scientific clarity that is far more shocking than any blasphemy. He shows you the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, explaining the purpose of each organ based on direct, empirical observation. He has dissected dozens of bodies, charting the landscape of the human interior with the same methodical precision he uses to forge a sword. This is the unexpected twist. The great leap forward of the Caucasian Renaissance, its pioneering work in medicine and surgery that has drastically lowered mortality rates in the Georgian army, is built upon a foundation of systematic sacrilege. It is a secret, state-sanctioned program of human dissection, a direct defiance of the most sacred tenets of the Church. The king knows. The patriarch is forced to look the other way, because Georgie's discoveries save the lives of soldiers, and the lives of soldiers are more important than the immortal soul of a dead bandit. The king protects this work, Georgie says, seeing the horror on your face. He understands that to heal the living, we must learn from the dead. We cannot trust in miracles and prayers to mend a ruptured artery on the battlefield. We must trust in knowledge, in what we can see and touch and prove. This, Andrea, is the true meaning of strength, the will to do what is necessary, no matter the cost to our own souls. You stumble out of the laboratory and into the cool night air. The city of Tbilisi glitters below you, a testament to 2 centuries of pragmatic, ruthless choices. You look at the great dome of the Sioni Cathedral, a symbol of your people's unshakable faith. Then you think of the body on the slab, its secrets laid bare for the sake of the state. You realize that the gleaming sword of knowledge you came here to help forge is quenched, not in oil or water, but in a much darker substance. Your golden age is not a gift. It is a transaction, and you now understand the price that is being paid. The year is 1453. The greatest city in the world is dying. For 1,000 years, Constantinople has been the queen of cities, the heart of the Orthodox faith, the Second Rome. Now, it is a city of ghosts, a tiny island of imperial purple in a vast ocean of Ottoman green. The final siege has begun. You are Luca, a captain in the newly formed Royal Georgian Navy. Your ship, the Archangel Michael, is a fusion of design, a vessel that could only exist in this timeline. Her hull has the deep, sturdy build of a Genoese carrack, designed to carry heavy cargo, but her lines are sleeker, adapted for the temperamental winds of the Black Sea, a modification insisted upon by your Trapezuntine shipwrights. And she is armed not just with marines, but with a battery of 20 bronze bombards, cast in the foundries of Tbilisi, using the methods perfected over the last century. Your navy is not a blue water fleet meant to challenge Venice or Genoa for control of the Mediterranean. It is a coastal defense force, a floating extension of the Caucasian fortress wall. Your mission is insane. King George VIII, a man known more for his piety than his pragmatism, has been swayed by the desperate pleas of the last Byzantine emperor, Constantine XI. He has ordered you to do the impossible. Break the Ottoman blockade and bring aid to the besieged city. It is a suicide mission, a gesture of Christian solidarity that flies in the face of 2 centuries of Georgian realpolitik. For the first time in generations, your kingdom is acting on faith, not on calculated self-interest. You command a small fleet of 12 ships. As you approach the Dardanelles, the reality of your task becomes horrifyingly clear. The Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed II, is a military genius. He has built massive fortresses on both sides of the strait, Rumeli Hisara and Anadolu Hisara. Their cannons, including the monstrous Great Bombard, create a kill zone that no ship should be able to pass. Beyond them, an Ottoman fleet of over 100 ships patrols the Sea of Marmara. Your own commanders are urging you to turn back. This is not war. This is martyrdom. But your king's orders were absolute. You press on. The battle is a nightmare of smoke, fire, and splintered wood. You do not try to fight the fortresses. You wait for a dark night with a strong tailwind, and you make a desperate run for it. The Ottoman cannons roar, their massive stone balls skipping across the water like demonic skipping stones. 2 of your ships are hit and sink almost immediately, their crews lost to the waves. The Archangel Michael is struck, a cannonball tearing through the mainmast, which crashes to the deck in a tangle of ropes and screaming men. But your ships have a technological advantage. Your bronze cannons, though smaller, have a much faster rate of fire than the massive iron guns of the Ottomans. You cannot sink their fortresses, but you can suppress their fire. Your gunners laying down a constant barrage that keeps the Ottoman crews ducking for cover. You push through the gauntlet, battered and bleeding, and emerge into the Sea of Marmara, only to face the Ottoman fleet. Here, the superior seamanship of your Greek and Genoese sailors makes the difference. You are outnumbered 10-1, but you are not trying to win a battle. You are trying to break a line. Your ships, heavier and better armed, become floating fortresses. You smash a hole in their formation through sheer brute force and a terrifying rate of cannon fire. By dawn, against all odds, 7 of your 12 ships have made it through the blockade. and are within sight of the Golden Horn, the great chain lowered to let you into the harbour. You have made it, but you are too late. The city is already on fire. The final assault is underway. The Janissaries have breached the Theodosian walls. The sounds of slaughter echo across the water. Your intervention, so costly in the lives of your men, has not saved Constantinople. It has only bought you a front-row seat to its death. The Emperor Constantine XI is dead, his body lost in the chaos of the final battle. As you watch from the deck of your crippled ship, you see the Sultan's personal standard, the green flag of the Caliphate, being raised over the dome of the Hagia Sophia. The symbol of 1,000 years of Christian empire has been replaced. The Second Rome is dead. Your mission has failed. But as your ship limps towards the harbour, you see a new, desperate mission unfolding. The piers and docks of the city are swarming with people. They are not soldiers. They are priests, monks, scholars, aristocrats, men and women clutching chests of books, precious icons, and ancient relics. They are the intellectual heart of the fallen empire, and they are trying to escape. They are being cut down by Ottoman soldiers, their precious cargo tossed into the sea. This is the ethical tension, the moment of terrible choice. You were sent to bring soldiers to the city. Your holds are filled with grain and weapons. Your king's orders are fulfilled, a failure though they were. The pragmatic choice is to turn around, to save your remaining ships and crews, and return to Trebizond. But your king is a pious man, and you know what is in those chests. You know that this is not just the fall of a city, but the potential extinction of a civilization's knowledge. You make your decision. Dump the grain, you roar. Clear the holds. We are not here for the living. We are here for the dead. The unexpected twist is one of brutal, triage-based salvation. Your marines form a defensive perimeter on the docks. Your cannons providing covering fire, holding off the Ottoman advance for a few precious hours. You do not save people based on their rank or wealth. You save them based on what they are carrying. A scholar with a satchel of Greek manuscripts is hauled aboard. A nobleman with a bag of gold is pushed aside. A monk carrying a 1,000-year-old gospel is given priority over a hysterical woman trying to save her children. You are making a series of monstrous, inhuman choices. You are saving books, not people. You are preserving the memory of a civilization at the cost of the lives of its citizens. You evacuate thousands, not just people, but entire libraries. The complete collection of the patriarchal library, the contents of the imperial scriptorium, the ancient scrolls from the monasteries of Studios and Cora. When your holds are full, you cram the decks with refugees, and you fight your way back out to sea, leaving the burning city and the screams of the damned behind you. You return not as a failed hero, but as the captain of a fleet of arks. The ships are packed to the gunwales with the intellectual treasure of the fallen empire. You have failed to save the body of Byzantium, but you have, against all odds, rescued its soul. The precious cargo is taken not to the cosmopolitan port of Trebizond, but inland, up into the high, secure fortress monasteries of the Georgian heartland, to Gelati, to Vardzia, to Ikalto. The Greek scholars, dazed and traumatized, are given new scriptoriums, new libraries to house their ancient texts. The evacuation of Byzantium is complete. It has not been a brain drain. A slow migration of scholars to Italy has happened in another history. It has been a heart transplant. The intellectual center of the Orthodox world has not merely shifted. It has been surgically removed from its dying body on the Bosphorus and implanted into the secure, fortified chest of the Caucasus. Georgia is no longer just the shield of Christendom. It has now become its library, its memory, its last, best hope. The dawn of the 16th century rises in a blaze of crimson. A new power is being born in the crucible of Persia, an empire forged not just by the sword, but by the fire of religious revolution. They are the Safavids. Their followers are the Qizilbash, the Red Heads, named for their distinctive red turbans. Their faith is a fervent, messianic strain of Shia Islam, and their leader is a boy king, a poet, a warrior, and a self-proclaimed living incarnation of God. Shah Ismail. You are a Georgian border lord, a prince of the house of Mukrani. Your fortress of Lori sits like a stone fang on the southern marches of the kingdom, overlooking the plains that stretch toward Tabriz. For a generation, this has been a quiet frontier. Now, it is the edge of a volcano. You have seen the Qizilbash. They fight with a terrifying, ecstatic fervor you have never witnessed. They charge into battle without fear, chanting the names of their Shah and their Imams, believing that to die in his service is to guarantee immediate entry into paradise. Ismail's conquests have been lightning fast. He has shattered the old Turkmen confederations, conquered Persia, and taken Baghdad. His ambition is limitless. He sees himself as the destined ruler of the entire Islamic world, and the first step to that destiny is to secure his northern frontier by extinguishing the Christian kingdom of Georgia. In another timeline, a fragmented and weakened Georgia would have been swallowed whole, its nobility forced into conversion or death, its churches turned into mosques. But the kingdom Shah Ismail faces is not a fragile prize. It is the product of 3 centuries of uninterrupted sovereignty and military focus. It is the Pontic Citadel, the Caucasian fortress, and it is as ideologically rigid as he is. Your king, David X, is a man of deep, unbending piety. He rules a kingdom that now sees itself as the sole custodian of true Orthodox belief, the repository of Byzantium's sacred legacy. The Georgian court does not see the rise of the Safavids as a mere geopolitical threat. They see it as a theological challenge, a new and potent heresy rising from the south. The conflict to come will not be a war for territory. It will be a holy war. The first encounter is not a battle, but a debate. Shah Ismail, confident in his divine mandate, sends a delegation of Shia clerics to Tbilisi. They are to persuade the Georgian king of the truth of their faith and the benefits of conversion. You are present in the great hall of the palace when the debate takes place. On one side are the Qizilbash scholars. Their faces alight with zealous conviction, their Farsi arguments flowing with poetic grace. On the other side are the Georgian bishops, black-robed and severe, their arguments grounded in the dense, intricate theology of the Greek Church Fathers, whose complete works now reside in the monastery libraries of Gelati. The ethical tension is the clash of 2 absolute certainties. The Safavid cleric speaks of Shah Ismail as the Mahdi, the hidden imam returned. The Georgian patriarch speaks of Jesus Christ as the one and only Son of God. There is no room for compromise, no possibility of syncretism. Each side is utterly convinced of its own divine truth and the other's demonic falsehood. It is a dialogue of the deaf, a collision of 2 worlds that cannot coexist. The debate ends not with a conversion, but with a mutual excommunication, a declaration from both sides that the other is damned to eternal hellfire. War is now inevitable. Shah Ismail himself leads his army north. He expects to face the Georgian army on the plains south of the Kura River, where his fanatical Qizilbash cavalry can destroy them. But the Georgians do not offer battle. 3 centuries of strategic DNA will not be unwritten. The fields are burned, the wells are poisoned, and the Georgian army vanishes into the fortress network of the Lesser Caucasus. You command the defense of Lori. The siege is a testament to Safavid ferocity and Georgian engineering. The Qizilbash charge your walls with a suicidal bravery that chills your soul. They are met not by knights seeking single combat, but by the cold, impersonal mathematics of a defensive system. Crossbow bolts, fired from overlapping angles. Cauldrons of boiling pitch. Volleys from the small cannons mounted on your bastions. It is the clash of religious fervour against military science. And science is winning. The unexpected twist is not that the invasion fails, but how it solidifies the very identity of the enemy it sought to destroy. Before the Safavid threat, Georgia was a kingdom with many internal fractures, rivalries between noble houses, theological disputes, the lingering cultural divide between the Georgian heartland and the Greek coast. Shah Ismail, in his fanaticism, burns all of that away. During a lull in the siege, a runner brings you a message. A relief force is coming. But it is not from the king in Tbilisi. It is from Trebizond. It is a legion of soldiers raised and paid for by the Komnenos Duke, the descendant of the last Komnenos you met in a previous life. These are the children of the men who once saw your people as barbarian occupiers. Now, they are marching under the command of a Georgian general to die for a Georgian king against a common enemy who would destroy them all. The shared threat of the Shia revolution has finally, irrevocably, fused the Pontic Citadel into a single, unified state. The last vestiges of Byzantine identity have been incinerated in the fires of holy war. They are all Georgians now. Shah Ismail is a brilliant commander, but he is not a fool. After 2 months of bloody, fruitless sieges, with his supply lines stretched thin and his army bleeding to death against your walls, he makes the same calculation that Subutai and Timur made before him. The conquest of Georgia is too costly a prize. He withdraws. But this is not the end. It is the beginning of a new reality. The border between your kingdoms becomes a hard, militarized frontier, a line of ideological and military confrontation that will define the region for centuries. It becomes a Caucasian version of the line between Catholic and Protestant Europe, a place of permanent, simmering conflict. You stand on the blood-soaked walls of your fortress, watching the last of the red turbans disappear to the south. You have held the line, you have defended your faith and your kingdom, but you feel a sense of profound unease. The war has changed you. The fierce, dogmatic certainty of your enemy has bled into your own soul. Your kingdom's faith, once a deep and complex intellectual tradition inherited from Byzantium, is becoming something harder, simpler, more militant. To fight the Qizilbash, you had to mirror their certainty. The cross has checked the redheads, but in doing so, it has taken on a harder, more unforgiving edge. The vibrant, multicultural Pontic Citadel is being hammered by the threat of Safavid Persia into something new, a nation, state defined by a single militant faith. The fortress is secure, but the world outside its walls now seems more alien and threatening than ever before. The year is 1558. You are standing in a building that should not exist, a monument to a history that was never supposed to happen. This is the new Cathedral of Holy Wisdom in Tbilisi, and its name is not a tribute but a claim. Its dome, though smaller than the lost original in Constantinople, is not a humble imitation. It is a declaration, crafted with a fusion of Byzantine grace and Caucasian strength, its interior glittering with mosaics that depict not just saints, but the kings of the Bagrationi dynasty, presented as the anointed protectors of the faith. You are Sophronius, Metropolitan of Trebizond, and you are a man torn in two. In your heart, you are a Hellene. You read the Gospels in the language Christ's apostles spoke. Your theological training was a direct immersion into the works of Athanasius and Chrysostom. read from manuscripts that were carried out of the inferno of 1453. But your church, your patriarch, your king, they are Georgian. You are a Greek mind in the service of a Caucasian body, and today that body will declare itself the one true head of the Orthodox world. The air in the cathedral is heavy with the scent of frankincense and the collective, anxious breath of every bishop in the kingdom. Before you, on a throne of carved ivory, sits Catholicocene Patriarch Ecfertime III. Beside him, on a secular throne, is King Luasab I, his hand resting on a sword forged of that peerless Caucasian steel. This is not just a church council. It is a council of war. The war is not against the Safavid heretic to the south. It is against your own brother in faith to the north. In the sprawling, distant city of Moscow, a new power has risen from the ashes of the Mongol yoke. Its grand prince, Ivan IV, has crowned himself Tsar, or Caesar. His priests and ideologues have crafted a powerful, seductive new mythos, the doctrine of the Third Rome. They claim that the First Rome fell to heresy. The Second Rome, Constantinople, fell to the Turks. And now Moscow is the Third Rome, the final and eternal bastion of true Christianity. To you, this is more than a political claim. It is a blasphemy. It is an act of breathtaking arrogance from a people you consider to be semi-barbarians, a kingdom that languished for centuries as tribute-paying slaves to the Golden Horde, while your own kingdom stood as a free and defiant fortress of the faith. They speak of inheriting the mantle of Rome, but they possess none of its treasures, none of its learning, none of its direct, unbroken lineage. All of that, the books, the scholars, the living apostolic tradition resides here, in this city, in this cathedral. The ethical tension is the chasm between what is right and what is wise. You know, with the certainty of a scholar and a priest, that Georgia's claim is the stronger one. Your kingdom's royal line is older than theirs. Your church was founded by the Apostle Andrew. You are the direct inheritors of Byzantium's intellectual and spiritual legacy. But to press this claim is to commit a sin of pride so great that it will tear the Orthodox world asunder. It is to declare a spiritual war on the largest and most populous Orthodox nation on earth. It is to choose theological purity over Christian unity, to break the body of the Church for the sake of being right. Patriarch Ecfertime rises. He is an old man, but his voice booms through the cathedral, echoing from the golden mosaics. He begins to read from a scroll, the proclamation of the Synod of Tbilisi. It is not a screed. It is a careful, devastatingly logical work of theological jurisprudence. It lays out Georgia's case, point by point, citing canon law and historical precedent. It honors the piety of the Rus people but dismisses their ruler's claim as a provincial fantasy, a political ambition wrapped in the holy robes of the Church. The grace of Rome, the Patriarch declares, his voice ringing with righteous fury, is not a prize to be claimed by the strongest, but a sacred trust to be kept by the faithful. It is a flame, not a throne. And that flame was not extinguished in 1453. It was carried here, to this consecrated ground, by the last sons of the Second Rome. We did not inherit a title. We rescued a legacy. Therefore, let it be known that any claim to be the Third Rome by any city other than this, our God-protected capital of Tbilisi, is a vanity, a falsehood, and an error against the Holy Spirit. A collective gasp fills the chamber. This is it. The line has not just been drawn, it has been carved into the stone of history. Then comes the unexpected twist, the move that transforms this declaration from a statement of principle into an act of aggression. The Patriarch announces the second part of the Synod's resolution, the commencement of the Great Recension. To protect the purity of the faith from the errors of translation and the ignorance of the provinces, he proclaims, we shall undertake the holy task of reviewing and correcting all sacred texts. The Holy Scripture, the writings of the Church Fathers, the liturgical books, all will be revised and standardized against the original Greek manuscripts that God, in His wisdom, has placed in our care. A printing press, a gift from our Genoese partners in Christ, will be established at the Gelati Monastery. These corrected, authorized texts will be printed and sent forth to all corners of the Orthodox world, so that the light of true learning may banish the darkness of error. This is the masterstroke, a move of breathtaking intellectual warfare. You are not just challenging Moscow's authority, you are invalidating their entire religious culture. The Russian Orthodox Church is built upon translations into Church Slavonic, texts that have been copied and recopied for centuries, accumulating errors and local variations. You are now creating a new gold standard of orthodoxy, a standard based on a level of scholarship and a wealth of primary sources that Moscow cannot hope to match. You are offering the world a choice: the pure, scholarly, Greco-Georgian orthodoxy of Tbilisi, or the provincial, error-filled Slavonic orthodoxy of Moscow. You are weaponizing the library you rescued. The vote is called. Every bishop must stand and declare his assent. When your name is called, Sophronius of Trebizond, you stand. You feel the weight of 1,000 years of your own Greek heritage on your shoulders. You see the faces of the refugee scholars who taught you, their eyes haunted by the flames of their lost city. To vote against this is to betray them. To vote for it is to fracture the church forever. I assent, you say, and your voice does not tremble. You walk out of the cathedral into the bright, crisp afternoon. The city of Tbilisi is alive with the confident energy of a capital at the peak of its power. You have won. You have defended the truth. You have secured your kingdom's place as the true center of the faith. But as you look to the north, beyond the great, snow-capped wall of the Caucasus, you feel a profound and lonely chill. You have just created a rival, an enemy, a second Orthodox world that will now define itself in opposition to you. The Third Rome has been crowned in Tbilisi, but it is a smaller, more isolated, and far more precarious throne than you could have ever imagined. The 17th century is a tide of grass and steel rolling inexorably south. You are a child of this tide. Your name is Stepan, and you were born in a stanitsa on the banks of the Don River. Your people are Cossacks, the runaway serfs, adventurers, and outlaws who forged a new identity in the wild steppe, the untamed frontier of the Tsardom of Moscow. You live by the horse, the saber, and a fierce, almost feral devotion to your freedom and your Orthodox faith. For generations, the great ambition of your people has been to push south, to claim the fertile lands of the North Caucasus, to drive back the Circassian tribes, and find a warm-water port. It is the manifest destiny of the Russian people, the divine will of the Tsar in Moscow. But your destiny has run into a wall. That wall is the Kingdom of Georgia. You are now a young man, a sotnik commanding 100 riders. You are on a scouting mission, and you have reached the Terek River. This river, in another world, would be just a temporary stopping point in Russia's relentless expansion. In this world, it is a hard border, as real and as dangerous as the great mountain range that looms behind it. On the far bank, you do not see the felt yurts of nomadic tribesmen. You see a stone watchtower, built in the distinctive Georgian style, its walls thick and its firing slits narrow. A banner flies from its peak, a deep red cross on a white field. Your priests in Moscow have taught you to see that cross as a symbol of prideful heresy, the standard of the schismatics of Tbilisi, who dare to call themselves the Third Rome. But here, on the ground, you see it for what it is, the mark of a power that is organized, disciplined, and unmovable. Your people's southward push has been checked, not by a single decisive battle, but by a long, brutal, and unwinnable war of attrition. The Georgians do not fight like the steppe nomads you are used to. They do not meet you in the open field. They use the mountains and forests as their allies. They fight a patient war of ambush, raids, and fortification. And they have armed and organized the local Circassian and Alan tribes, turning them from squabbling clans into a unified, deadly buffer force. The Georgian king does not pay them in gold. He pays them in steel rifles and small cannons traded from his European allies, and in the promise of protection from you. The great Russian tide has been broken against this Caucasian rock. Your people, the Cossacks of the Terek frontier, are now stranded, a finger of Slavic settlement pointing into a world that will not yield. You are too far from Moscow to be effectively governed, too weak to conquer what lies ahead. You are in a crucible, and a strange new thing is being forged. You are attending a council of war, not with your own people, but with a Circassian chieftain named Aslanbek. A year ago, you were trying to kill each other. Today, you are negotiating a pact of mutual defense against a band of Chechen raiders who are plaguing both your settlements. The meeting takes place in a grove of sacred oaks, a place of ancient power for the Circassians. The cultural dissonance is jarring. Your Cossack elders, with their long beards and severe black robes, look like crows in a field of peacocks next to the Circassian lords, in their vibrant coats and silver-dangled belts. You speak different languages, worship in different ways. Yet, you find a common ground. The ethical tension is the slow erosion of your identity. To survive, you must adapt. You must become something new, something that is neither fully Russian nor fully Caucasian. You are negotiating with a man your Tsar would call a heathen bandit. You are learning his customs, his codes of honor. You find his people's fierce love of freedom and their mastery of mountain warfare are things you can respect, things your own people share. You are becoming a frontiersman, a man whose loyalty is first to his community, his land, and his neighbors, and only second to a distant Tsar in a faraway city. Aslanbek offers you a pact, sealed not with a treaty, but with an oath of brotherhood. It is a Caucasian tradition, a bond considered more sacred than any written law. Your elders are hesitant, suspicious of this pagan ritual, but you see the necessity. Then comes the unexpected twist, the moment that crystallizes this new reality. A Georgian envoy arrives at the meeting. He is not a soldier, but a priest diplomat, a man named Father Gabriel. He is from one of the great monasteries, and his Georgian is laced with the classical Greek of a scholar. He is here not to command, but to mediate and to offer. The King of Kings in Tbilisi. Father Gabriel announces, his voice calm and authoritative, recognizes the courage and spirit of the Cossack people of the Terek. He sees you are not the slaves of the Moscow Tsar. You are a free people. He offers you a choice. Continue this fruitless war and be slowly ground to dust between the millstones of Moscow and the mountains. Or accept his patronage. Swear fealty not to the Tsar of Moscow, but to the crown of Georgia. The offer is shocking, a piece of audacious political maneuvering. He is offering you vassalage, but it is a different kind of vassalage. You will keep your lands, your customs, your language, the priest continues. You will govern yourselves under your own atamans. Your orthodox faith will be respected. though we will send our own teachers to guide you back to the true canonical path. He smiles, a subtle, scholarly jab at Moscow's errors. In return, you will be the guardians of this river, the northern shield of our kingdom. You will have our trade, our weapons, and our protection. You will be a kingdom under our kingdom, the Cossack Kingdom of the Terek. Your Cossack elders are outraged. The idea of swearing fealty to the Georgian king, the schismatic heretic, is anathema. It is a betrayal of Holy Russia, of the Tsar, of everything they believe in. But you, Stepan, and the younger generation of Cossacks, you see the cold, hard logic. Moscow sends you tax collectors and arrogant governors. It demands your sons for its endless wars against Poland and Sweden. It offers you nothing but orders. The Georgians are offering you autonomy, partnership, and the weapons you need to survive. A fierce debate rages for days. It is a battle for the soul of your people. Are you Russians living on the frontier, or are you a new people, the Terek Cossacks, whose future lies with the powers of the Caucasus? In the end, survival trumps ideology. A pact is made. You and your atamans ride not to Moscow, but to Tbilisi to kneel before the Georgian king. You are greeted not as conquered subjects, but as valued allies. You return to the Terek a different man. You still speak your Slavic tongue, but your coat is now lined with Circassian fur. You still pray in the Orthodox manner, but the priest in your new stone church is a Georgian who is teaching your children a different catechism. Your son will grow up learning to fight like a Cossack, to ride like a Circassian, and to think like a Georgian. You have become the warden of the North. You have secured your people's future by betraying their past. The Russian tide has not just been stopped, a piece of it has broken off and been remade by the mountain. The Cossack Kingdom of the Terek is born, a strange, hybrid entity, a Slavic buffer state for a Caucasian empire, forever guarding the river that marks the edge of two worlds. The year is 1722. You are standing in a field of vines, the sun of the Alazani Valley warm on your face. The air is sweet with the smell of grapes and damp earth. In the distance, the snow-capped peaks of the high Caucasus stand like a row of silent, white-robed judges against the blue sky. This is the heart of Kakheti, the ancient wine country of Georgia, a land where the rhythm of life has been dictated by the seasons of the vine for thousands of years. But a new rhythm is being imposed today, the rhythm of the measuring chain and the leveling rod. Your name is Levan, and you are a graduate of the Royal Academy in Tbilisi. You are not a poet or a priest. You are a hydrographer and a cartographer. The tools of your trade are not a sword or a prayer book, but a brass theodolite and a sheaf of meticulously drafted charts. You are a soldier in a new kind of army, the army of the king's reason. The king himself is here. Vakhtang VI, the lawgiver, a monarch who in another world would be a vassal struggling under Persian domination, is here the absolute ruler of a prosperous and secure kingdom. He is not dressed in silks and brocades. He wears high leather boots caked in mud and a simple wool coat. He is leaning over your charts, his finger tracing the path of a proposed canal, a line of blue ink that cuts a ruthless, geometric path through the patchwork of ancient family vineyards. The fall is 3 degrees too shallow here, Levan, he says, his voice not that of a king giving an order, but of a senior engineer consulting with a junior colleague. We will need to deepen the cut, or the flow will be too sluggish in the dry season. Recalculate the labour cost. This is the Georgian Enlightenment. It is not happening in candlelit salons or coffee houses. It is happening here, in the mud. There are no debates about the rights of man or the nature of the social contract. To King Vakhtang and his circle of thinkers, those are frivolous, dangerous abstractions. The Georgian Enlightenment is about the application of reason to the concrete problems of the state. How to get more water to the fields. How to increase the yield of the vineyards. How to build a fortress that can withstand the new generation of gunpowder artillery. It is an enlightenment of soil, water, and stone. The project you are working on is a perfect example. A grand canal, 20 miles long, that will rationalize the irrigation of the entire valley. It will make the land more productive, the harvests more reliable, the royal treasury fuller. It is a triumph of reason over the chaotic inefficiency of tradition. An old man, the patriarch of a family whose lands will be bisected by your canal, approaches the king. He bows low, but his eyes, wrinkled and dark as raisins, are filled with a quiet fury. "Your Majesty," he says, his voice raspy with age, "my family has farmed this land for 500 years. The stream that waters our vines flows from the grave of Saint Nino's disciple. Your ditch will steal its water. You are measuring the land, but you do not know it. Some things cannot be drawn with a straight line. This is the ethical tension of your age. The tension between a rational, centralized, efficient future and a messy, human, traditional past." The king listens patiently. He does not dismiss the old man. "Your family will be compensated with new lands. Lands that will yield twice as much, watered by this very canal," Vakhtang replies, his tone gentle but firm. "And the water from St. Nino's stream will join the larger flow to give life to 100 other vineyards, not just your own. God gave us reason not to worship the past, but to improve the future he has granted us. Your saint would understand." The old man bows again, his face a mask of grief. He is not a revolutionary. He will not fight the king. He will simply be swept away by the tide of progress, another casualty of the greater good. You watch him go, and for a moment you feel a pang of something pity, guilt, but you push it aside. The numbers on your chart are clean, logical, and pure. They promise a better world. Later that month, your work in the valley complete, you are summoned by the king to a private chamber deep within the royal palace in Tbilisi. This room is not on any official floor plan. The air is cool and dry. The only light comes from a series of oil lamps that cast a warm glow on the room's single, astonishing feature. A map. It covers an entire wall, a meticulous, hand-drawn, hand-coloured cartographic masterpiece. It is a map of the entire kingdom of Georgia and its dependencies, from the coast of Trebizond to the borders of the Terek Cossacks. It is a work you have contributed to, one of dozens of surveyors who have spent years secretly charting every mountain, every river, every pass in the realm. This map is the unexpected twist. It is the secret, central project of the Georgian Enlightenment. King Vakhtang calls it the Great Inventory. It is far more than a simple geographical survey. The king picks up a long wooden pointer. "Our canals and fortresses are the body of the kingdom, Lavan," he says, his voice low and intense. This is its nervous system." He begins to touch points on the map. "Here," he says, tapping a remote valley in the Svaneti highlands, "we have located a significant deposit of copper, essential for casting better cannons. Here," he moves the pointer to a stretch of the Black Sea coast. "The currents are favourable for a new deep-water port, which will allow us to trade with the Austrians without relying on the Genoese as middlemen. And here," he taps a region on the southern border, "the clan loyalty of the local nobles is weak. They have been secretly communicating with the Persian governor in Erevan. We now know every path into and out of their valley. If they rebel, we can seal it in 6 hours." You stare at the map, and a profound, chilling understanding dawns on you. This is not just a tool for economic development. It is the ultimate instrument of state control. The data you have been collecting, population counts, crop yields, geological surveys, even the records of local dialects and grievances, has all been fed into this single, comprehensive picture of the kingdom. It is a map not just of the land, but of the people who live on it, their resources, their loyalties, their weaknesses. The Wine of Reason is not a philosophy of liberation. It is a methodology of absolute power. The Enlightenment here has not led to questioning the authority of the king. It has given him the tools to make that authority inescapable, to base it not just on divine right, but on the unassailable logic of data. The French philosophers write books about what a kingdom should be. Vakhtang says with a thin, dismissive smile, "We are building one, a state that runs like a clock, where every part is known, every motion calculated. A perfect, rational, Christian machine." You look at the beautiful, terrifying map. You, a man of science, have not helped to free your people. You have helped to build the most sophisticated and benevolent cage the world has ever known. Every road planned, every resource exploited, every potential dissenter identified. You are a pioneer, a man of the new age. But the old farmer in the vineyard was right. You have measured the land. But in your quest for perfect order, you have lost something essential, something that cannot be drawn with a straight line. The dawn of the 19th century is a brutal age of empires. The world is being carved up by giants. To the north, the Russian Empire, vast, ponderous, and relentless, has swallowed Poland, Finland, and Siberia. To the south, the Qajar dynasty of Persia, though weaker, still nurses ambitions of reclaiming its ancient Caucasian territories. Wedged between these two behemoths is your kingdom, a jewel that both covet. You are Prince Irakli, chief advisor to your aging father, King George XII. Your family has ruled Georgia for 1,000 years. Your duty is to ensure it rules for 1,000 more. You were educated not in a monastery, but in Vienna, a guest of the Habsburg court. You speak fluent German and French. You have read Voltaire and Locke. And you understand the cold, cynical arithmetic of European power politics. The language of divine right and holy war that defined your ancestors is, to you, a nostalgic poetry. You speak the modern language of interests, balances, and spheres of influence. Your capital, Tbilisi, is no longer just a fortress. It has become a listening post, a city of spies, Russian agents disguised as fur traders, Persian spies posing as carpet merchants, and even a few quiet Englishmen, smelling the scent of the coming great game for control of Asia, all meet in the city's caravanserai. Your job is not to expel them, but to know them, to listen to their whispers, and to play them against each other. You are in the mirror hall of the royal palace, a room designed to intimidate with its glittering reflections and opulent chandeliers. Before you is Count Gudovich, the Russian Governor-General of the North Caucasus. He is a bear of a man, blunt and direct, oozing the casual arrogance of a power that believes its own expansion is the natural order of the universe. "Your Majesty," he says, addressing your father but looking at you, "the Tsar, my master, offers you his eternal friendship and protection. The Persian threat grows daily. Your kingdom is a Christian island in a Muslim sea. It is time to formalize our ancient bond, become a protectorate of the Russian Empire. Your dynasty will be secure, your church will be honored, your borders will be our borders." It is the same offer made to a dozen other smaller states, an offer that always ends with annexation. It is the embrace of a python. Your father, a man of the old school, begins to speak of faith and brotherhood. You cut him off, gently, with a raised hand. You reply to Gudovich in flawless French, the language of international diplomacy. We are deeply grateful for the Tsar's generous offer, Count. His friendship is a treasure we hold dear, but our security is not our primary concern. For 2 centuries, our Terek Cossack vassals have held the northern passes. Our treaty with the Shah in Tehran, which we renewed last year, guarantees our southern border. We are quite safe. You are lying, of course. You know the Persians are massing troops. You know the Russians are building new forts along the Terek. But you are changing the frame of the conversation. This is the ethical tension of your diplomacy. To maintain your independence, you must become the most duplicitous player on the board. You must lie to everyone. You must make promises you have no intention of keeping and sign treaties whose ink is designed to fade. Your kingdom's survival depends on your absolute, unwavering bad faith. You are sacrificing honor for sovereignty, a trade your ancestors would have found unthinkable. Gudovich frowns. Your confidence is admirable, Prince. But confidence will not stop a Qajar army. Perhaps not, you reply smoothly. But an army marching through our lands to attack you in Astrakhan would be a different matter. Our kingdom is not an island, Count. It is a bridge. A bridge you would much rather see in friendly hands than in Persian ones. Just as the Shah would rather see it in friendly hands than in Russian ones. We are not a prize to be won. We are the indispensable fulcrum upon which the entire balance of power in this region rests. You have just defined the new Georgian foreign policy, the doctrine of the indispensable neutral. The unexpected twist comes a month later. You receive a secret dispatch from your spies in Tehran. The Qajar Shah, Fath Ali, egged on by British advisors who wish to check Russian expansion, is preparing a massive invasion. This is the test of your new doctrine. A test you cannot afford to fail. You do not mobilize your army. You do not send desperate pleas to St. Petersburg. You do something far more subtle. You invite the Persian ambassador to a private viewing of a military exercise. In a high mountain valley, you assemble a single legion of your best troops. They are not dressed in the archaic chainmail of your royal guard. They are dressed in uniforms of dark green wool, modelled on the Austrian line infantry. They carry modern, muzzle-loading rifles, purchased from a Belgian firm in exchange for a monopoly on the copper from your newly exploited mines. They march not in a feudal host, but in disciplined, silent columns. At your command, they perform a series of complex, synchronized volley-fire drills, the same drills that have made European armies the masters of the world. Then, a battery of your new horse-drawn artillery, their cannons cast with the precision of your state foundries, performs a live-fire demonstration, obliterating a hillside target with terrifying accuracy and speed. The Persian ambassador, a man accustomed to the chaotic charges of tribal cavalry, is visibly shaken. You have not shown him your whole army. You have not even shown him a tenth of it. You have shown him a sample of its quality. You have shown him that you are not a crumbling medieval relic, but a modern, European-style military power. Small but deadly. A single legion, you say casually to the ambassador as you ride back to the city. A trifle, but imagine the cost of dislodging 20 such legions from our mountain fortresses. A cost in time, a cost in blood, a cost that would leave Persia's armies so weakened, so bled white, that the Tsar in St. Petersburg would surely take advantage of it to seize Tabriz. Or perhaps even Tehran itself. You pause, letting the implications sink in. Of course, a similar calculation must be made by the Russians. An invasion from the north would be equally costly. So costly, it might invite the Ottoman Sultan to reclaim his lost territories in the west. It is a knot, you see. A Caucasian knot. And we are the ones who hold the strings. The ambassador says nothing. But you know your message has been received. 2 weeks later, the Persian invasion is called off. The Shah sends your father a gift of 12 fine Arab horses, a gesture of renewed friendship. You are sitting in your study, a map of your kingdom spread before you. The Russian bear growls to the north. The Persian lion paces to the south. You have survived. You have outwitted them both. Your diplomacy has been a masterpiece of manipulation, a triumph of the cold, rational mind. But you feel no elation. You feel only the immense, crushing weight of permanent vigilance. Your kingdom is no longer a fortress of stone. It is a house of cards, built on lies, threats, and the carefully calculated self-interest of your enemies. It is a beautiful, intricate, and fragile construction. And you know that you will have to spend the rest of your life in a state of sleepless, paranoid anxiety, forever checking the wind, forever anticipating the one tremor that will bring it all crashing down. You have secured your kingdom's present, but you have mortgaged its future on a gambler's bet that you will always be the cleverest man in the room. The year is 1871. You are standing on the platform of the newly completed Tbilisi Central Station, and the air smells of coal smoke, hot steel, and the future. A steam locomotive, a monstrous snorting beast of black iron and polished brass, hisses to a stop, its arrival announced by a piercing whistle that echoes off the ancient walls of the Narikala fortress. This machine is a thing of violent, almost obscene power, and it has just dragged a piece of Central Europe into the heart of your Caucasian kingdom. You are Ketavan, the daughter of a Georgian prince, but you are not here to greet a fellow aristocrat. You are a translator for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, one of the first women to graduate from the Royal Academy's new Faculty of Modern Languages. Your mind is as sharp and as modern as the locomotive's steel wheels. You are here to welcome Herr Dr. Fischer, a railway engineer from Vienna, a man who represents the kingdom's boldest and most dangerous strategic pivot in a century. Out of the first-class carriage steps a delegation of Austrians. They are a jarring sight in the vibrant, colourful tapestry of Tbilisi. They wear stiff, dark suits. Their faces are pale from the long journey, and they carry themselves with the rigid posture of men from an empire of ancient, unbending ceremony. Herr Fischer is a man in his 50s, with a magnificent moustache and eyes that seem to be constantly calculating angles and stress loads. He looks at the mountains surrounding the city not with awe, but as a series of engineering problems to be solved. This is the Vienna-Tbilisi axis. It is an alliance born of mutual fear and shared vulnerability. Your kingdom, for all its diplomatic cunning, is feeling the ever-increasing pressure of its giant neighbours. The Russian Empire to the north is industrializing, pushing new railway lines ever closer to the Terek border. The Qajar dynasty to the south, while weak, is a constant source of instability. And now, the Ottoman Empire to the west, the traditional enemy, is being propped up by the British. Georgia is feeling the tightening of the geopolitical knot. Likewise, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that sprawling multi-ethnic museum of a state, is terrified of Russian expansionism in the Balkans and the Black Sea. They see in your independent Christian kingdom a potential bulwark, a Balkan state in the Caucasus that can act as a check on the Tsar's ambitions. The enemy of their enemy is their friend. So a bargain has been struck. Austria will provide the capital, the engineers, and the industrial technology to modernize Georgia's infrastructure and military. In return, Georgia will grant the Austrians exclusive access to the markets of the Black Sea and northern Persia via the port of Trebizond. It is a partnership of a desperate ancient monarchy and a cunning mountain kingdom. The ethical tension lies in the nature of this modernization. You are not just importing technology, you are importing an entire worldview. As you escort Herr Fischer to his hotel, you pass a regiment of Georgian soldiers drilling in the main square. Their uniforms are now a near-perfect copy of the Austro-Hungarian infantry. Their officers are shouting commands in German, the new official language of the Georgian military. The rifles on their shoulders were forged not in Tbilisi, but in the great arms works of Stay. You are making your army stronger, more professional, more capable of defending your borders. But you are also erasing a piece of its soul. The old traditions, the unique tactics born of centuries of mountain warfare, are being replaced by the rigid, textbook doctrines of a foreign power. You are becoming a stronger army. But are you still a Georgian army? That evening, you are at a state dinner held in the Austrians' honour. The hall glitters with Habsburg crystal and Georgian silver. The conversation is a mix of German and French. Herr Fischer is seated next to your uncle, the Minister of War. The engineer is not talking about railways. He is talking about artillery. This is the unexpected twist. The Austrians are not just building you a railway line. They are using that line to deliver the keys to a new kind of kingdom. Your current fortresses, Excellency, Fischer says, sketching on a napkin, are magnificent relics. They were designed to stop cannonballs, but the new Krupp guns the Russians are buying can fire exploding shells. An explosive shell does not need to break a stone wall. It just needs to land inside. It kills men, not stone. Your old fortresses have become death traps. He pushes the napkin across the table. On it is a quick, brilliant sketch of something new. It is not a high, proud castle on a hilltop. It is a low, star-shaped fortification dug into the earth, with sloping, grass-covered ramparts designed to absorb and deflect artillery fire. It has sunken gun emplacements, underground barracks, and interlocking fields of fire for the new machine guns. It is a modern, industrial fortress, a thing of science and terror. The railway we are building, Fischer continues, his voice low, is not primarily for trade. It is for logistics. It will allow you to move an entire army corps and its supplies from the coast to the northern frontier in 48 hours. It will allow you to reinforce any of these new fortifications before the enemy can even begin a proper siege. We are not just giving you an alliance, we are giving you a new national defense system, built on the principles of speed, firepower, and industrial engineering. You sit there, translating the German for the older members of your court, and a chill runs down your spine. The Vienna-Tbilisi axis is not a simple alliance. It is a complete technological and military assimilation. You are not becoming a partner to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. You are becoming a miniature, remote-controlled version of it. Your kingdom's survival is now inextricably linked to the fortunes of this distant, decaying empire, a state as rigid and brittle as the court etiquette of its diplomats. You look around the room. The younger generation of Georgian nobles are speaking fluent German, discussing Viennese opera and Austrian military theory. The older generation look on, confused and vaguely alarmed, like strangers in their own home. You came of age in a kingdom that prided itself on its unique, clever, independent path. It was a state that played empires against each other. Now, you have chosen a side. You have tied the fate of your Caucasian fortress to the gilded, creaking edifice of the Habsburgs. As the locomotive whistle blows again in the night, a lonely, mournful sound, you realize the profound gamble your kingdom has made. You have traded your treasured autonomy for the promise of a modern, secure future. You have imported the machine, but you have also imported its ghost. And you can only pray that when the great European storm finally breaks, you will not be dragged down into the maelstrom with your new, powerful, and very fragile friends. The year is 1915. The storm has broken. The great European clockwork of alliances and mobilization schedules has exploded into a global cataclysm. What was meant to be a swift, surgical war has become a mindless, industrial slaughter in the trenches of France and the frozen plains of Poland. You are Georgi, a major on the Georgian General Staff. Your world, once a carefully managed game of diplomatic chess, has been consumed by the brute logic of total war. The Vienna-Tbilisi axis, forged in the cautious optimism of the 1870s, has become an iron chain, dragging your small kingdom into the inferno. King David XIII, a man educated in Vienna and married to a Hungarian countess, honoured the treaty. When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia and Russia responded, your fate was sealed. You are at war with the Russian Empire. You are a member of the Central Powers. Your office is in the newly constructed Ministry of War, a grim, functional building of grey stone that looks more like a Viennese bank than a Caucasian palace. The walls are covered with maps, the air is a fog of cheap cigarette smoke, and the telegraph machines chatter incessantly, spitting out casualty reports from the Galician front, naval updates from the North Sea, and desperate requests for more ammunition from your own forces on the Terek. The northern front has become a stalemate. The new, Austrian-designed fortifications have held, but at a terrible cost. Your small professional army is bleeding to death in a war of attrition against the endless manpower of the Russian Imperial Army. The Russians cannot break through, but they can afford to lose 10 men for every one of yours. You cannot. The Caucasian Knot has become a noose, and it is tightening. A new plan is needed. A bold stroke. Something to break the stalemate and change the strategic calculus of the entire war. The plan has been developed in secret by your staff, in consultation with a handful of German military advisors, men with clipped accents and a terrifyingly clear-eyed view of warfare. The plan is laid out on the great map table in the center of the room. It is codenamed Operation Prometheus. The objective is not a city. It is a substance. Oil. The sprawling oil fields of Baku, on the Caspian coast in Russian-controlled Azerbaijan. In this new mechanized war, oil is not just a resource. It is the lifeblood of the modern army. It fuels the trucks, the airplanes, the new armored cars. The Baku fields produce over 90% of the Russian Empire's oil. To seize them, or even just to destroy them, would cripple the Russian war machine. It would be a blow from which they might never recover. This is the ethical tension, laid bare in lines of red and blue grease pencil on a map. To launch this offensive, you must strip the northern defences to the bone, leaving only a skeleton force to hold the line. If the offensive fails, or if the Russians launch a surprise attack while your main force is committed to the south, the road to Tbilisi will be wide open. You are gambling the very existence of your kingdom on a single desperate throw of the dice. You are risking certain annihilation for a chance at a decisive victory. The Minister of War, your old uncle, a man who remembers the cautious diplomacy of the last century, is horrified. "This is madness," he sputters. "It is a gambler's throw. Our entire strategy for centuries has been defensive, to bleed the enemy in our mountains. This is not our way of war." A German advisor, a Colonel von Siecht, a man with a monocle and a soul of ice, responds without emotion. "Your way of war, Excellency, will lead to your honourable extinction. The Russian Empire is a steamroller. You cannot stop it. You can only hope to break its engine. And the engine is in Baku." The king, pale and drawn, gives his assent. Operation Prometheus is a go. You are on the command train, moving southeast along the railway line that was built for trade, and is now the artery of invasion. The train is filled with a new kind of Georgian soldier, They are not the proud mountain warriors of legend. They are grim-faced conscripts, their Austrian-style uniforms covered in dust, their eyes holding the dull, fatalistic look of men who have seen the face of industrial war. This is the unexpected twist. Your army, so carefully modernized along Austrian lines, has also imported Austria's fatal weakness. It is a multi-ethnic army. As you move south, your forces are supplemented by new volunteers, Azeri nationalists who see you as liberators from Russian rule, Dagestani mountain clans who have their own ancient grudges against the Tsar. They are brave fighters, but their loyalty is not to your king. It is to their own nascent nationalisms, their own dreams of independence. You have unleashed a force that you do not understand and cannot control. You came to seize an oil field, but you have accidentally ignited a revolution. The oil offensive begins. It is a stunning success. The Russian command, obsessed with the main fronts in Europe, has left the Baku region weakly defended. Your modernized army, its logistics supplied by the railway, its movements coordinated by telegraph, smashes through the Russian lines. The Cossack garrisons are swept aside. You are not fighting a mountain war now. You are fighting a war of movement, of speed, of the new German doctrine of Bewegungskrieg. You stand on a hill overlooking the Absheron Peninsula. Below you is a forest of wooden oil derricks stretching as far as the eye can see. The city of Baku is in flames, but it is not your artillery that has set the fires. The city has exploded into a civil war. Your arrival has been the spark in a powder keg of ethnic and social tensions. Azeris are fighting Armenians. Muslim radicals are fighting socialist workers from the oil fields. Your soldiers, who were supposed to secure the prize, are now bogged down in a vicious, chaotic street-to-street battle they were never trained for. You have captured the engine, but in doing so, you have set the whole machine on fire. You cannot control the oil fields. You cannot secure the pipeline. You can only watch as the entire region descends into an anarchic bloodbath. The fires of Baku can be seen from 100 miles away, a pillar of smoke by day and a hellish orange glow by night. A telegraph message arrives from the northern front. The Russians, realizing what is at stake, have launched their counterattack. They are throwing everything they have at your weakened defences. You stand there, smelling the acrid smoke of burning oil, listening to the chatter of machine guns in the city below, and you understand the profound and tragic irony of your victory. You have succeeded beyond your wildest dreams. You have struck a mortal blow to the Russian Empire. But the fires you have started here, the ethnic hatreds and revolutionary furies you have unleashed, are burning out of control, and the flames are beginning to spread back towards you. You have broken the Russian steamroller, but you have done it by starting a forest fire that is now roaring towards your own home. The year is 1963. You are sitting in the Crystal Bar on the top floor of the Tbilisi Grand Hotel. The city below is a galaxy of lights, a brilliant fusion of the ancient and the hyper-modern. From your vantage point, you can see the 5th century walls of the Narikala fortress, now floodlit, and below them, the glittering steel and glass towers of the new financial district. The air in the bar is cool and smells of expensive perfume, French cigarettes, and the quiet, thrilling hum of money being made. Your name is Aline, and you work for a division of the government so discreet it does not have a formal name. Your title is Cultural Attaché, a phrase so bland it screams intelligence work. You are watching a man at the other end of the bar. He is an American oil executive, or so his passport says. He is talking to a man who claims to be a Belgian antiquities dealer. You know the American is the Central Intelligence Agency's station chief, and the Belgian is a high-ranking officer in the French Service de Documentation Extérieure et de Contre-Espionnage. They are not discussing antiquities. They are haggling over the price of satellite photographs of a suspected Soviet missile site in the Turkestan military district, and you know that your government will receive a 3% commission on the final price because the transaction is being brokered by the bank in the building across the street. This is Tbilisi, the Switzerland of the Caucasus, the iron and silk exchange. After the cataclysm of the Great War, which saw the collapse of the Russian, Ottoman, and Austro-Hungarian empires, your kingdom performed the greatest diplomatic pivot in its long history. It declared a state of permanent, armed neutrality. As the Russian Civil War raged to the north, Georgia sealed its mountain passes, its modern army a formidable deterrent to any Bolshevik adventurism. The Red Army, bogged down fighting a dozen other enemies, looked at the Caucasian fortress and, like the Mongols and Timurids before them, decided the prize was not worth the price. The result was a non-Soviet Central Asia, a chaotic patchwork of unstable emirates, socialist republics, and petty kingdoms, all sitting on a vast wealth of cotton, gas, and minerals. They were all desperate for access to Western markets, and there was only one safe, stable route out, through Georgia. And so, the great project of the 20th century was born. The Trans-Caucasian Railway, an iron artery, funded by a consortium of German, Italian and Georgian banks, stretching from the Caspian port of Alat, through the heart of your kingdom, to the modernized deep-water port at Trebizond. It is the Silk Road, reborn in steel. Every day, its trains carry the wealth of a fragmented Asia to the factories of a recovering Europe, and every wagon pays a toll, in hard currency, to the Georgian state. This is the source of the glittering city below you. Not conquest, not ideology, but the simple, brutal business of being the indispensable bridge between two worlds. The ethical tension of your existence is the price of this pristine neutrality. Your kingdom is a haven of stability in a world of chaos, but it is a stability that profits from that chaos. The vaults of the banks below you hold the ill-gotten fortunes of the Emir of Bukhara, a man who boils his political opponents alive. Your hospitals offer world-class medical care to Pashtun warlords who grow rich on the opium trade. You sell weapons, manufactured in your own state-of-the-art arms factories, to both sides of a dozen petty border conflicts in the lands of the former Persian Empire. Your nation has become a beautiful, clean and efficient machine that runs on the dirty fuel of other people's misery. You are the calm eye of the hurricane. Your peace is paid for by their wars. Your prosperity is underwritten by their poverty. You, Eileen, write reports on these transactions. Your language precise, amoral and objective. You have been taught that this is not cynicism. This is pragmatism. This is survival. This is the Georgian way, perfected over 8 centuries. You receive a signal from a compact mirror in your purse. It is time for your own meeting. You leave the bar and take a silent wood-panelled elevator down to the lobby. Your meeting is with a man named Mr. Jones, a British cultural attaché who is, of course, from the Secret Intelligence Service. He is old, tired, and smells of rain and disappointment. He gets straight to the point. We have a problem, Eileen. We have an asset. A high-level source inside the Uzbek Soviet Socialist Republic's Planning Committee. He has information of the highest possible importance. The Soviets are planning a massive agricultural collectivization program, modeled on the Ukrainian disaster in the 1930s. It will cause a famine. Millions will die. You listen. Your face, a mask of polite neutrality. He needs to get out. Jones continues, his voice a low, urgent whisper. With his documents, we need to get him and his family to the west. The only way is on your railway, through your territory. This is where the unexpected twist unfurls. A secret reality far more complex than simple, profitable neutrality. The Trans-Caucasian Railway is more than an economic artery. It is the world's most important conveyor belt for high-value intelligence. Your government does not just tolerate this. It manages it. It is the most profitable and most secret part of the entire enterprise. The fee for such a transit is, as you know, significant. You state, your voice cool and professional. Jones winces. We will pay it. But that's not the problem. The Soviets know he is a traitor. They don't know who he is, but they know he is trying to escape. They have formally requested that your government suspend all cross-border traffic on the Eastern Line for security reasons. They are trying to bottle him up. You see the trap immediately. To refuse the Soviet request is to openly defy a global superpower, to compromise your neutrality. To accept it is to condemn the asset and millions of future famine victims to death. My government prizes its neutrality, you say. We cannot be seen to be taking sides. For God's sake, Eileen, Jones pleads, his professional mask slipping. This isn't about taking sides. This is about a preventable human catastrophe. And then you deliver the truth. The cold, hard, Georgian truth. Our neutrality is not a passive thing, Mr. Jones. It is a commodity. It has a price. You slide a small, folded piece of paper across the table to him. My government is prepared to refuse the Soviet request and guarantee the safe passage of your asset. The price is not monetary. It is the complete, unredacted file your service holds on British petroleum exploration rights in the Caspian Basin for the next 50 years. You have 1 hour to get an affirmative reply from London. Jones stares at you, his face a mixture of shock and dawning horror. He thought he was dealing with a neutral facilitator. He now understands he is dealing with the ultimate information broker. Your kingdom does not just skim a commission. It leverages every secret that passes through its territory for its own strategic advantage. You are not Switzerland. You are something far more dangerous. You are a nation of spies that has become a state-sized intelligence agency, playing the great powers against each other, not for survival, but for profit and control. He gets up and walks away to find a secure telephone line. You sit there, a young woman in a chic European suit, the fate of millions resting on a piece of geopolitical extortion you have just executed flawlessly. You look out the window at the railway station in the distance, the nexus of it all. The iron and silk exchange. It has made your country rich, safe, and powerful. It has also hollowed it out, replacing its ancient soul of faith and honor with the cold, silent logic of a balance sheet. You have become the masters of the game, and you now know that the price of winning is to be left with nothing to believe in but the game itself. The world you have just walked through is not a better world. It is not a worse one. It is simply a different answer to the eternal question of history. What is the meaning of strength? In our own timeline, the kingdom of Georgia was broken. At the Battle of Cunan in 1221, its chivalric pride led it into a Mongol trap, and its golden age was shattered. What followed were centuries of invasion, occupation, fragmentation, and heroic, tragic resistance. That history forged a culture of breathtaking resilience, a nation of poets and survivors whose identity was defined by what it had endured, what it had lost. Its strength was in its soul, a flame that could never be extinguished. It was a hot history, written in blood and poetry. In the timeline we have explored, King George IV Lasher listened to his spies. He chose pragmatism over pride, survival over glory. He saved the body of his kingdom by sacrificing a piece of its heart. That single, cold decision created a ripple that never stopped spreading. It forged a new kind of Georgia, a state that valued the fortress wall over the epic song, the engineer over the warrior, the contract over the crusade. It was a cold history, written in stone and ink. This Georgia endured. It became a power, a linchpin, a master of the great game. It never suffered the humility of occupation or the tragedy of a lost statehood. But what was the trade-off? To build this unbroken fortress, it assimilated its neighbours, mortgaged its sovereignty to foreign bankers, weaponized its faith, and ultimately traded its moral compass for a ledger book. It created a rational, efficient, and prosperous state, a perfect, benevolent cage. The beautiful struggles and hard-won lessons of our own history, the very things that give Georgian culture its unique and profound depth, were lessons that world never got to learn. There was no need. Is history, then, a march toward progress? Or is it simply a series of accidents, of doors opening and closing, each path leading to a world with its own virtues, its own sins, its own definition of what it means to be human? The two worlds stand as a testament to the contingency of it all. One chose the path of the martyr and found its strength in faith. The other chose the path of the survivor and found its strength in cunning. Both are answers. Both are true. And both came at a cost that can never be calculated.